I was lucky to get some one-on-one time with the preeminent expert on the coronavirus. He's the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, and you've probably seen him every day doing briefings with the President, Donald Trump. So here he is, Dr. Anthony Fauci. Dr. Fauci, thank you so much for joining us on the Daily Social Distancing Show. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. No, very well.
You are an infectious diseases expert who has advised 6 presidents on everything from SARS to Ebola to the HIV epidemic and Zika. What makes coronavirus so different?
Well, it's different because, when people used to ask me over the years, what is it that I most worry about with regard to emerging infectious diseases, is a respiratory-borne illness that easily spreads from person to person, but that has a high degree of morbidity and mortality. And unfortunately, that's the worst nightmare you could have, is to have something like that. I mean, there are other diseases. Ebola was frightening, but Ebola gets transmitted only when you're in very close contact with a person who is very, very ill. With this disease, in some respects similar to influenza, but in some respects very different, it spreads very easily. You can even spread it when you're not symptomatic. So it's insidious and treacherous in that you could spread it easily. The other part about it that's really so different from anything that we've ever faced before is that if you look at the mortality of seasonal flu, the thing that you and I go through every season, the mortality is about 0.1%. That's a lot. And we get used to that morbidity and mortality. But the mortality of this is about 10 times that. It's at least 1%. So it's a disease that not only is easily spread, but it can be devastating, particularly for a certain subset of the population. Demographically different. The elderly, those with underlying conditions, heart disease, lung disease, diabetes. It can be very serious for them with a high degree of mortality.
Let's talk a little bit about the information in and around corona that's I think getting people confused. I see so many conflicting ideas online, and I guess the horrible byproduct of having social media and the internet is everyone is now an expert and everyone has an opinion. I know this is very basic for you, but just to help everyone be on the same page, how can we catch corona and what are the areas we should be most concerned about? So we know about human-to-human transmission. Most people understand that, but I see people online worried about grocery shopping, touching packages that they receive from Amazon. Do people need to wipe them down? When they're in the grocery store, can they touch other things? How long does coronavirus last in the air? For instance, if you walk into an elevator after somebody else, can coronavirus still be there? What do we need to be on the lookout for as individuals?
Okay, there's varied degrees of risk, Trevor, of that in every respect. But the things that are the most common that you really want to latch onto is that sneezing and coughing. When someone is ill, they've got to get themselves out of circulation because they can spread by droplets and even by what we call aerosol, which means the drop doesn't go down right away. It hangs around for a bit. So you could come into a room thinking everything is all right, and then you inhale it. That's likely not the primary way. The primary way is probably droplet. But another way that's very important is handshaking. When people naturally go like that, they cough, and then it's innocent, there's nothing on their hand, they shake your hand or they open a doorknob. And that's the thing, you don't want to be obsessive compulsive about wiping everything down that you go near, but one of the real bad actors is somebody who just opens a door and then 15 minutes later, because we know the virus can live on inanimate hard objects like steel or plastic for at least several hours. So that's the thing you've got to be careful of. That's one of the reasons why, if you really want to be careful, besides the social distancing of 6 feet, don't shake anybody's hands. Just lose that for a while. And wash your hands as often as you can because you may be inadvertently touching something. Now, your other question, Trevor, that's important, is that I don't think we need to get completely obsessed about packages that come in because those types of surfaces, the virus might live there for a very short time, but people say, should I get a package from a grocery store that says made in China? I wouldn't worry about that. That's not the issue. It's more the close things, the hand washing.